The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
There'll be spectacle, there'll be fantasy, there'll be daring do and stuff like you would never see.
Be a movie. Yeah, we're gonna be a movie.
Starring everybody
And me. There'll be heroes bold, there'll be comedy, and a lot of fuss that ends for us real happily. Be a movie. We can watch it all develop. Starring everybody.
And me. We'll take the world and set it on its ear.
Come on, join in. We're gonna start right here.
And we are going to start right here. Hello, and welcome to Triple Feature. I am your host, your mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, and welcome to Suplex City, bitch. No, I'm sorry, got a little distracted. And joining me tonight is my brother from another mother, the original originator of podcast inflammatory sublimators. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Freestyle himself, Sean. He's Sean, you're not. Sean Comer, how do you do, sir?
I have literally no idea what's going on. I just messaged Mark 5 minutes ago and asked him to keep me company while my edible kicked in.
Perfect. This is going to be a great show. So myself, Sean, Ronnie, and all of the interdisciplinary seven dwarves from the forthcoming Snow White movie have been we have been doing these director focuses. This is the third one. Ronnie and I did one for Guy Ritchie. Sean and I did one for Wes Anderson, and we're now moving on to the great Jordan Peele. And this was actually your pitch, Sean. Why did you pitch me Jordan Peele?
Yes, we are the new dwarves. And behold, off to my side over here, our esteemed leader, Sexy the Dwarf.
Hello, Sexy. Not the first time I've said that with you on the show, by the way.
Not the first time, and I'm gradually starting to take it as a compliment. I'm starting to believe it. Anyway, yeah, this was my idea because, frankly, I liked what I had seen of Jordan Peele so far. I was already a fan going back to Key and Peele. I rather liked his take on the Twilight Zone. Candyman 2021 kind of needed a second viewing for me to really get it, but I definitely appreciated it much more the second time through. But the one problem was I hadn't seen any of his other movies that he was really known for. I hadn't seen Get Out yet. I hadn't seen Us when we scheduled this. I don't think. Oh yeah, Nope. Nope was already out, but Nope was still fairly new, so of course I hadn't seen it yet. So it was a great excuse to check him out and broaden my horizons, and man, am I thankful I did.
So I knew nothing of Jordan Peele. I never watched Key and Peele. Yeah. Robert and I in 2021 reviewed Candyman, and I actually just uploaded one of two TikToks I cut for that today as I'm going through all my old footage. And I loved the new Candyman, except for the which we don't need to get into here. But Robert, if you want to hear Robert and I just rake that ending over the coals, go ahead and listen to that podcast.
Fair.
9/10 of that movie is absolutely fantastic, and then that last bit with the cops just goes off a cliff. But so I was at least based on Candyman and what I had heard about Get Out, Nope, and Us. I had heard that he does very like Afrocentric horror, and I said, well, that's nice. And in about half of that I'm interested in, but I never got around to seeing Get Out when it came out because Jordan Peele wasn't quite Jordan Peele just yet. So like I'd heard Get Out was good. I'd heard like in this sort of deluge of horror movies that had come out, Get Out was by back in 2017 I think it was by far one of the best ones going. People were just raving about it, and I was like, that's great. And, every critic that I enjoyed, like the Half in the Bag guys, like, oh my god, Get Out is like the best horror movie ever, in a long time. And I'm like, cool. don't watch a lot of horror unless I have to for this podcast. Us came out, and Us didn't get quite the rave reviews of Get Out, but financially it did about as well. So Jordan Peele was kind of the it guy. And then Nope came out last year, and it just came out at a time where I think it was around the same time as another movie that we were going to review. So it just never made the schedule. But by the time Nope comes out, everyone's talking about Jordan Peele. Because again, by that point, Candyman had also come out. And it was like, this guy is like the new horror guy. But he isn't just throwing guts at the screen, nor is he doing jump scares, nor is he doing like wild and crazy stuff like I think it was James Wan in Malignant, which to this day is still one of my favorite horror movies just because how bonkers it is. Like, this guy was making a thinker's horror movie. And based on Candyman, I could believe that. So when you were like, hey, let's do Jordan Peele, and I'm like, yeah, I need to watch these movies as a film person. And I want to say this for our layman people who like to watch this because they like to see what I'm doing. I think as a film person, you should watch stuff that doesn't necessarily pique your interest just to stretch as a film person. And so here we are with Jordan Peele. Who is Jordan Peele besides what we just talked about? He's an American actor, comedian, filmmaker, and known for his film and television work in the comedy and horror genres. He started his career in the sketch comedy before transitioning his career as a writer and director of psychological horror and satirical films. In 2017, Peele was included on the annual Time 100 list of the most influential people in the world. Yeah, he is like big money Jordan Peele. Not quite big money Chris Nolan, but definitely big money Jordan Peele. He wrote and produced Keanu. He wrote, directed, and produced Get Out. He produced Black Klansman, which I did see in the theater and was fan-freaking-tastic. He wrote, directed, and produced Us. He wrote and produced Candyman. Wrote, produced, and directed Nope. And he wrote and produced and was also a leading vocal role for Wendell and Wild, which is currently on Netflix. So let's get into our first movie here. We shall waste no time today. Let's talk about Get Out. Get Out is a 2017 American psychological horror film written, directed, and produced by Jordan Peele. In his directorial debut, it stars Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Lil Rel Howery, who plays Lil Rel Howery, as he does in all of his movies, Lakeith Stanfield, Bradley Whitford, Caleb Landry Jones, Stephen Root, and Catherine Keener. The plot follows a young Black man who uncovers shocking secrets when he meets the family of his white girlfriend. And we can get right into this. So, like, the whole thing of this is that over a long Hitchcockian buildup, you find out that they are they're taking the brains of the people of the town and putting them into new bodies, preferably Black bodies. And the hook is that there's a blind art dealer, and he wants Daniel Kaluuya's body for his eyes, not so much because he's Black and awesome. And that's the whole thing of this. But along the way, the movie is very much laden with like mild racism, but the mild racism of liberals, where it's just like, we love Black people, everyone should get one, that kind of a thing. It's a we appreciate your great strength and all of this. I very much enjoyed that element of the movie, just because, you know, like politics and racial discussions, that's kind of my thing, or at least it used to be. And so seeing like a pensive or almost timid Black guy go home with his white girlfriend and be like, this isn't going to be like a problem, is it? And she's like, no, my parents love Black people. And it's all the, what do you call them these days, microaggressions that people suffer of, you know, sort of obtuse comments that are made, which may or may not be made in good faith, but are still obtuse and insulting. And just the slings and arrows and indignity suffered by people who you were just trying to get along in social contract and not cause problems, but it gets to be a bit much when it's over and over and over again, and it's so obtuse and there's so much of it. And that is like 90% of this fucking movie. The remaining part of it, the horror part, and you know, I said this with Candyman. I said Candyman is great. It gets into gentrification, it gets into racial issues, it gets into this, it gets into that, but they can't spend too long on it because they got to get to the horror. And that is kind of the Jordan Peele way. Here's a whole bunch of crap I'm going to throw out there that I want to talk about. We can't get into it too much because eventually we got to get to the scary. And I'll tell you, of the 3 movies, Get Out, I would say it earns all of its accreditations and awards that it got, which we'll talk about momentarily, because it waits the longest to deal with the horror to the point where you might forget you're watching a horror movie. It's definitely one of those creak up the roller coaster and then sharp drop and then the movie's over and you're like, what happened here? So what did you think of Get Out?
I don't want to say it's complicated, but I want to say my opinions are hopefully a little bit nuanced. And to preface them, neither myself nor Mark is remotely cut out to comment firsthand on the American Black experience for reasons that should be pointedly obvious. This shouldn't require an explainer, so I'm not offering one. However, having been around racist white people, I can maybe elaborate a little bit on that part. And the fact is, I'll just kind of shoot from the hip and not try to think too hard about what I'm saying. It doesn't feel like Jordan Peele made a movie about racism that was made for white people. And frankly, number one, I commend him for that. And number two, that should never be held against this movie.
Nope.
He made this movie to be relatable to the people who do experience everything every day, from the either intended or accidental microtransgressions to the overt, in your face, just like Grandpappy used to make bigotry.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to piggyback on that one statement very, very, very briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's this like tacit belief among select white people that go, well, there's no more slavery and there's no more separate but equal, and Black people have come a long way. Some of the richest people, most successful people in the world are Black. Racism's over, right? No. And just because it's not, as you put it, the old distilled moonshiny racism of your days of yore, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I said this on a recent podcast. It was actually, I know which one it was now. We were talking about the Forever
Pepperidge Farms don't remember this racism.
We're talking about this on the Forever Purge in 2021. And I said, look, people may not be outwardly trying to prevent other people from having their civil rights. We may not be actively attacking each other anymore for the vast majority of the time, but that doesn't mean people want to live with them. Does it want to live with other people? And that's where like the microaggression stuff comes from. It's just like, I'm willing to tolerate your existence, but I don't particularly enjoy you. But I can't say that out loud because then I get tarred and feathered. So it all just kind of, it's that like almost like a bad marriage. It's that icy fucking racism of I can't really tell you how I feel, but you can feel how I feel, and it comes out in these really obtuse statements.
Much of the movie is what I like to think of as depicting a kind of more subtly insidious racism. It's that in the case of this movie, it's, I think, very much an unintentional kind of condescending, pandering, patronizing, trying too hard to keep the peace.
You're so well spoken.
Kind of racism.
I love that line.
Good example. Great
You're
example.
so well spoken. The fuck you speak? He was talking about Barack Obama. He's like, what the fuck did you think he was gonna sound? I'm gonna write me a
bomb today.
I'm gonna write me a law. I'm gonna write me a law today. Like, what did you think he was gonna like do the thing from fucking Airplane 2, where as he's being sworn into the office and be like, do you swear to uphold the Constitution? Ain't no thing. Like, what the fuck? These are educated people.
And when it comes to white people being racist, there's a reason why this is not more over the top and on the nose. It's because this isn't exploitation.
Right.
this isn't making something so big and bombastic that you absolutely can't ignore the point that's being made. It's trying to be real instead, and that is what racism. That is what real racism is to many marginalized Americans. It's not people in sheets brandishing nooses from the backs of pickup trucks with horns that play Dixie badly. It is the microaggressions. It is the little things, and always kind of having to just grit your teeth and take it, because it's kind of like what Terry Crews said when he spoke out during the Me Too movement. He said that when he famously claimed that he allegedly was groped by a very powerful Hollywood mover and shaker, he said that he kind of had a long moment where he contemplated, should I do anything? And then reality struck him, and he realized, I'm a massive, yoked up, black ex-NFL player. He's a feeble white man that I could crush. But how's it going to look to everybody else in the room, and whose side are they more likely going to take? Which narrative are they going to be quicker to adopt? That's kind of what Get Out is.
Yeah.
It is very real black horror, not like over the top Ernest Dickerson and directing Bones kind of gothic urban black horror. But it's very great. You said it was Hitchcock. You said it was Hitchcockian.
I'll say it's not even like Candyman, where it's just like, here we have, black urban myth, and we have, sort of the collective black experience and trauma embodied by the Candyman, who's going to hook and slash his way through this movie as a spirit of vengeance. It's not even that. It is literally, what is the worst thing you can do to a person besides physically or sexually physically assault them? And that is objectify them. I'm big into this now because, especially in the communities that I take part in, there's a lot of, I don't want to be a sex doll. I don't want to be objectified, unless that is my choice. But then that's my agency. I'm choosing this. I don't want this foisted upon me. And now let's move out of that community and let's talk about black people who, came from, in this country at the very least, came from slavery, right? Where they were absolutely tools, of the farm trade. And we're, 200 years later, and they're still having to deal with the image, the visage, the objectification by some that they are still just not people. They're
still just stock. Yeah.
They are cattle. They are literally, when it's funny because I think about, enough black people who are trusting enough to talk to you openly. They will say things like, why do white people insist on grabbing, or just watch stand-up comedians because they'll talk about it too. White people like, oh, you have such great hair. Sean, I don't know about you, and I don't count. But when I did have hair, or especially long flowing hair, when you had hair, how many people walked up to you and be like, can I touch your hair? Because that's a very black thing that happens. And it's like, why? Why are you touching me? The Terry Crews thing that you just mentioned, the natural sort of physical gifts that many black people have. And it's, and they just like to feel the need to touch them. And it's like, why? You wouldn't do this to anybody else. You should. White people are not walking around just like grabbing each other for no apparent reason for the most part. But again, we need to touch the item on the shelf to see if we want to take it home aspect of how we deal with black people is still very much present. And God knows black people know that, and how they have to live in this universe and deal with that on an ongoing basis and be reminded of it constantly is disheartening, to say the least. My takeaway kind of is, if Candyman, both the original and the 2021 sequel for that matter, if that's the ghost of black racism's most horrible past in America, this is the ghost of racism present. Very much, yeah.
Hidden in plain sight, and always ready to light the gaslight. And
that's the horror of Get Out. Just to make sure that we're still talking about the movie, the horror of this movie is very much that we still think we, the collective we, the royal we, still think of black people as objects to be used, objects to create fortune with, objects to better ourselves with. They're still not people. And that's what Chris goes through throughout this movie. Between the microaggressions at the party, the stuff that's being said to him, to the actual horror of, oh, you're actually putting your brains in my body because you want my body. Yikes. I'm not a person. The horror is I'm not a person.
And that's the most horrible part, is the fact that by every indication, he's being looked at by these crusty old polished white people as being pretty much good for the same way that white people classically viewed black people back in the days.
But can we also talk about the idea of like the black boyfriend as status symbol?
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, is the fact that they're viewing him kind of, in a manner of speaking, as being good for exactly three things: working the fields, making babies, and entertainment. That's about it. Whereas on the other hand, we're seeing him objectively, and the real tragic part about that is he's facing this reductive, pandering, condescending hell, when the truth is he's just a good man.
Yeah.
In general, he's just a good man, and that makes it so easy to invest in him, to feel for him, to fear for him.
Yeah. It's funny because you look at the relationship he has with Rose, the girlfriend, and he, at first blush, it's like, oh, what a loving couple, what a nice liberal, forward-thinking, progressive young couple. And then it's like, no, he's a human shield. Look, you can't say I'm racist. You can't say the bad thing about me. I've got the black guy. And I hold him up like this, see? And now nothing can get to me. I'm protected. Ha. And then he becomes, the big, like, town shield. Look at us. We love black people, don't we? Ha. And it's like, doesn't really matter how they're actually behaving, how they're actually acting. It's like, look how good we are to black people. You can't say we're protected now. It's, it's like little kids playing outside. It's like, we have the shield.
Like epic loot drop, +5 ebony shield. Yes.
Yes, exactly. We have the ebony shield. And again, it's just like, as black people who, look, first of all, you said it before, but I will underscore it. Any black person listening to this podcast going, oh, this is hilarious, these two. But look, I'm also a big fan of anyone can talk about anything as long as you're somewhat bright about it and you make good points, so it shouldn't matter. But if we had a panelist of black people that came on the show, they'd be sitting here telling us about how, but you also have to live in this world, and again, I go back to, because I spent a lot of time over the past year, 2 years, talking about, sex and women's agency and all of that, through the guise of Pam and Tommy and some other shows and movies that we talked about. And it was very much the same thing. You as women, especially in the shadow of the Me Too movement, you have to still live in this world. You still live with men. Black people still have to live with white people. Martin Lawrence's joke, by the way, about how white people and black people have never been more bonded together than after 9/11, because now we all hate the Muslims. It's like there's Muslims on the plane, and suddenly black people, like black guys and white guys, are all kind of bonding together, going, all right, if he goes nuts and tries to light his shoe on fire, I'm a boxer, you're a wrestler because you're white. We'll get him. It's like, okay. The enemy of my enemy. To round out our discussion of Get Out, we can move on to Us. It absolutely, and I can kind of go through this real quick. It is a great movie. I mentioned Hitchcockian tension because, and I think I mentioned this with another movie. We go a good long while. I remember this. We talked about X, as a matter of fact. We were like 40 minutes into the movie before the first kill. Fresh was the same thing. It was a good hour, 40 minutes to an hour before the horror started. Get Out spends a long time setting up these characters. You're a good 30 to 40 minutes into it before he even gets hypnotized by Catherine Keener the first time, which sets everything in motion. He doesn't notice like Lakeith Stanfield coming apart at the seams till after an hour into the movie. And then, like I said, everything with them trying to do the horror happens in the last act of the movie. It's the last 30 minutes. So if you're looking for if you're looking for the kind of horror where, come on, get to the scary already, this is not going to be your bag. But if you're looking for a thinker's horror, if you're looking for a psychological horror movie where, once you finally realize what the gag was, and that's what's horrifying about this movie, then I think you'll really enjoy this. But it all comes down to, what are you looking to get out of your movie-going experience? Are you looking for, uppity, downy, bumpity, bumpity roller coaster ride? Or are you looking to have your notions and thoughts challenged and a little bit of a thrill at the very end? That's kind of Get Out in a nutshell. Go ahead, Sean. You wanted to jump in with something?
Oh, no, I was just clearing my throat.
Okay. At the 90th Academy Awards, the film earned 4 nominations: Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Actor for Daniel Kaluuya. Peele became the 3rd person after Warren Beatty and James L. Brooks to earn Best Picture, Director, and Screenplay nominations for a debut film, and the first African-American winner for Best Original Screenplay, of which he's in good company with John Singleton, Spike Lee, and Susan DePass. Get Out divided Oscar voters, with many older members of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences dismissing it or choosing not to see it, which is everything wrong with modern film and awards, by the way, and that is not the first time I've said that.
Why?
Because, and I said this, we talked about this with Men in Black, if it's not outwardly a prestige film, it gets ignored. It gets dismissed. Yeah, I don't even want to read the rest of the paragraph.
No.
Here, real quick. Just do this as a list. All right, so yeah, it won Best Ensemble at the AARP's Movie for Grown-Ups Awards. It won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. It swept the African American Film Critics Association for all of its awards. It won a Best Original Screenplay for the Alliance of Women Journalists. It won an American Film Institute Award as a top 10 film of the year. It won Best Film for the Austin Film Critics Association. It won an Outstanding Film, Outstanding Director, Outstanding Screenplay, Outstanding Actor, and Outstanding Breakthrough Performance, Male, at the Black Reel Awards. And it won a bunch more. This list goes on and on. And I think this is now in the National Registry, if I remember correctly. I'm sure it will be eventually, though. It might not be old enough just yet. All right. You want to move on to Us? Mm-hmm. All right. So Us is a 2019 American psychological horror film written and directed by Jordan Peele, starring Lupita Nyong'o. Oh, I wanted to mention, this thing was big money. It was made on a budget of $4.45 million. It made a $255.4 million. Yet another example of keep your budgets low, because when you get a hit, you can knock it out of the park and make yourself some big money. Like, stop making $200 million pictures, people, unless you really got the audience for it. Anywho, I'm on the wrong page. It stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Elizabeth Moss, and Tim Heidecker. The film follows Adelaide Wilson and her family, who are attacked by a group of menacing doppelgangers. This thing was made on a budget of $20 million, and it made $256.1. So we're still making big money here. And so the plot of this is, back in the days of yore, a young gal separates from her parents, gets lost at a fair. She ends up seeing her doppelganger, and then in a series of flashbacks, it is revealed later that that the doppelganger actually replaced the girl, and the girl lived amongst these Morlocks for a decade or so, and eventually leads a revolt. But in between, we transported into the future, and we see a lovely black family going to a cabin in the woods for a weekend getaway, which is always the recipe for disaster. And they meet up with another white family, and color me shocked, this white family doesn't get along. They're a bunch of assholes. Hollywood, completely out of ideas. So there's that. And then it's a very simple plot structure. They're just chilling out in the house, and then their doppelgangers attack the house, and then it's a run from the zombies movie. And then it runs the scope, and it turns out there were more doppelgangers, and they're attacking their counterparts. And then it's more killing of zombies, and more killing of zombies. And they're slowly but surely telling you what the story is over the course of the movie. And then they kill all the zombies, and oh no, Twilight Zone, Hitchcock. The zombie's the one that The zombie's the one that's like the actual mother, and the doppelganger is the one that, and the original kid is the one that got killed. Not quite as good as Get Out, in my opinion. This is a very simple movie, a very simple premise stretched over way too long a period of time. I'm not saying it's bad or anything. It wasn't my favorite of the three by far. And I think the thing that jumped out at me, the thing that I would talk about for another hour if you let me, isn't anything a part of the horror, because the horror I kind of think sucks in this movie. It's just them fighting zombies, and who cares? I don't even think the kills are all that good. It's just people getting killed. Like, there's nothing really to it. It's very flat. The thing I love about this movie, the thing that really hooked me into it, were the family dynamics. And I don't know if it's just me projecting, or because of the shit that I've gone through in the past couple of years, or this is just a more common experience. My experience is a more common experience than I've even been led to believe. So as Winston Duke, who is trying his goddamn damnedest to get this family that he loves and cares about to the vacation spot and do fun things on vacation and just be the best dad that he can. And the wife's a bitch, and the kid's an asshole, and the other kid's like fucking like not even present. And it's just like, I try so hard. I try so hard to do everything right for this family. And I am beset on all sides by these assholes tearing me down. Why do I even bother? And then you go over to the white family. It's like the mom's a drunk and the father's just utterly irritated with her. And it's like, we have money, we have status, I take you on nice vacations. Why is nobody happy? Why, Sean? Why? And I'll tell you,
hashtag Winston Duke and Tim Heidecker did nothing wrong.
I've watched this movie and I'm like, the horror isn't the zombie. The horror is middle-class families. Jesus Christ, this handled that better than American Beauty.
No, you may be right, but even then, another regard in which, and it pains me and aggravates me to say that this feels revolutionary in mainstream horror, is the fact that he's still kind of, changing things up by having a normal, not like trope-free black family.
Yeah.
Just a grounded, very real black family that just happens to be at the center of all this.
Yeah.
Whereas what do you think you would see them reduced to in so many other horror movies from decades past?
Ain't no thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was nice because we also talk about like just typical horror tropes, and everybody in a horror movie is a fucking asshole, and that's why you want to see him get eaten by the monster, except for the final girl. And boy, does that movie turn all horror conventions on its head. This is a perfectly nice family that you don't want to see eaten by a monster, and oh, by the way, the mom is the actual monster. She just got away with it the whole time, Scooby-Doo. Which I gotta credit Jordan Peele. If Jordan Peele's a thinker, Jordan Peele is actually somebody who, kind of like us, has watched a lot of movies, has thought about movies, and thought, like, what can we do that's different? He's kind of Eric Bischoff trying to figure out how he's going to make Nitro different from Raw. Here's a list of things that we know. Here's a list of ways we can interpret them differently, do things differently, so that the audience is interested, and we can sort of revitalize the genre, which can be a bit flaccid at times. And that's, so I don't hate Us. It's my least favorite of the three, because I think the premise is boring. But I'm also, again, not a Twilight Zone fan. This is very Twilight Zone-ish. This is more of kind of what I was saying about the Saw movies on Tuesday night. I get why other people would like this. This is, and I'm not saying it's craft-wise bad. I'm saying it's not really my thing. But there are definitely, like I said, elements of it that I can appreciate for how good they are.
I'll tell you, the movie kind of tricked me early on. Because with what it was setting up, especially since Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke's family are the first ones that we see come under attack, I wondered if first maybe we weren't about to kind of get set up for kind of a feature movie length dialogue about the notion of, you know, black people passing among white people, and maybe it was going to be, maybe The Shadows was going to be a metaphor for everything about their authentic selves that they repress, kind of coming back in full force to torment them later.
That would have been a more interesting movie.
It might have been. You're not wrong. But then it expands out and you realize that it's also happening to all the pale faces in the neighborhood too. It's everybody. Right. And it's so well structured the whole way through, with just the right amount of foreshadowing. It's paced nicely. I will admit the kills are lackluster, but they're still brutal enough and intense enough that you never really feel like you're watching some exploitatively violent slasher movie. I like to think of it as if Get Out is Jordan Peele's Birds, his Rear Window, his Psycho. This is more like Rope. I think when all's said and done, this might be one of the movies in his filmography that is actually really good, but it's been overshadowed by so many things that were so much more ambitious or maybe more layered that it just kind of gets unfortunately forgotten about.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
So like I said, we spent the good 20 to 30 minutes talking about Get Out, and we could have spent we could have just done an on trial on Get Out. We could have spent the entire hour on that. There was a lot there, but I am a slave to format. And so I was like, nope, we're going to cut this short. But there was a lot in Get Out to discuss when you think about all of the psychodynamic and social racial issues before you even get to the strict film craft and horror elements. My problem with Us is it's too slight a movie. I mean, I read through the Wikipedia page and like the themes and everything else, and I can share a little bit of that with you. Critic Jim Vidvoda related the tether to urban legends and xenophobic paranoia about the other. Also writing they resembled Morlocks and H.G. Wells' 1895 novel, The Time Machine. Journalist Noel Ransom reviewed the film as being about the effects of classism and marginalization, writing the tethered are effigies of this same situational classism. They're trapped mentally and physically and ignored. Okay, like I get that, and I think that's interesting, and it's certainly grist for the mill for conversation. But it took me reading it for that to have jumped out at me. And I'm someone who tends to deconstruct and interpret film like an AP English student. So, and look, I'm not saying I'm perfect. Some stuff just I don't get. And I'm watching Us, and maybe it was the time of the day that I watched it, or the fact that I was, getting texted like half tired. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I tried to dig into this movie about its themes and its concepts, and I wasn't getting anywhere. And it just felt like, it definitely felt like again, Jordan kind of taking the zombie subgenre, and going, what else can I do with this to make it interesting? I think in retrospect, now that I've read that out loud and I've thought about it a little bit, again, going back to the authentic Black experience, positive and negative, what you were saying before about, is this movie about, Black people sort of having to look into the mirror, and face their other self, the self that they have to hide, and maybe to a degree, but that all goes out the window, in my opinion, once you realize that's not what this is at all. The horror is that they created these beings in order to control the population, and it didn't work, and so they just got shoved in the basement to be forever forgotten about. Yeah. And I feel like it's a bit of a reach then to be like, oh, that's how people feel. We're in the basement and nobody sees us. Okay. And there's a conversation to be had about that. I could spend the next hour talking about how there's a lot of people that in an age where it's so easy to be seen, you can put yourself on the internet and theoretically be seen by everyone on earth that has a cell phone. Nobody feels seen. Nobody feels like they get enough attention. We are entering into multiple relationships with people, romantic or otherwise, in order to maximize the amount of attention that we can receive, because many of us need so much of it. I could talk about that all day. I'm not getting that out of us, though, unfortunately.
Okay, I would disagree only very slightly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great quote. I want to attribute this to Dave Grohl because I think he was the first one that I heard say it, but I could be wrong if it was even originated by him.
Mm-hmm.
But to paraphrase slightly, it's the idea that a musician can go out there and sing a song to 10,000 people all at once, and they will sing it straight back for 10,000 individual distinct reasons. And I think that's also one of the things that I actually find most beautiful about horror is that potential. I'm not saying every movie does it, but I'm saying there's the potential to take something that's weighty with some gravitas that you want to discuss, that you want to break down, or that you want to drive home. Something that a lot of mainstream distributors and studios absolutely would not touch because they don't want to tackle anything that on the nose. But you dress it up in these imaginative, surreal, phantasmagoric, dark metaphors, and all of a sudden, the spoonful of sugar is making the medicine go down, and you're sort of processing exactly what someone wants you to without really getting any pushback. I think that's why indie horror tends to do so much better than mainstream horror, is for the sake of the mainstream, the studio will want to get its claws in and really kind of strip away everything that's essential to the formula that I just rattled off. All the creativity, all the abstract, because they figure audiences aren't going to get it. They're not going to want it. It's going to be too intimidating. It's going to be too confusing for them. Just no. Just we all we want is Friday the 13th sequels, Nightmare on Elm Street sequels, Halloween sequels, all of that. Whereas on the other hand, when it comes to independent horror, you don't have so many shackles. If you already have no budget, if you're already working with an independent studio or as an independent studio, you really have nothing to lose. So you can just kind of make whatever you want with no pushback. And often that includes movies that actually have a bit of a message to them. And whether you're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Get Out, Last House on the Left, Witchboard, Alien, and countless video and Videodrome, Deliverance, countless other movies that have really seized on that potential to get something out there, but to kind of Trojan horse it in there in something that's going to be much more captivating to the imagination, that's going to seem much more interesting than just, here is a movie about contemporary racism. Here's a movie about the fallout from rape. Here's a movie about men discovering their inner feminine, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But you dress that up with aliens and slashers and demonic possession and wacky pseudoscience plots. And voila, lobster. You suddenly have just that metaphor that's right there in the back of your mind anytime the subject comes up, and it's furthering your understanding at least a little bit, at least enough that you can kind of follow what somebody else is trying to say about it. I'm sorry if that's overthinking it, but
no, you're not, because I now actually want to piggyback on it, because as you were saying, like how that spoonful of sugar helping the medicine go down, and I think about, I know a lot of passive movie watchers. I date pretty frequently, and I meet a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people, and the feedback I get back is I just want to be entertained, and now I'm thinking about it from the artist's point of view. How do we get the I just want to be entertained people to think about? I was thinking about Barbie. Actually, I had this conversation with a girl I went out with last night, and you would never have expected, never in a million years, the movie about the toy doll to be this rumination on feminism, patriarchy, gender norms, etc. And there are people, and I'm just going to blurt this out. There are people who's like, I don't want to think about this stuff. I don't want to talk about this stuff. I want to go to work. I want to come home, take care of my family or myself, depending on what your situation is, pay my bills and relax. And I don't want to think about shit. And then there's the artists, there's the thinkers of the world going, we have to think about this stuff. We have to evolve. We have to, we have to grow up as a society. We have to move forward. And we're not going to do that if we don't think about things and, make changes over time. And so it's like, well, how do you get these two disparate parties to meet in the middle? You do it through us. You do it through Get Out. You make a movie that is wildly entertaining to one degree or another. You put very pretty people in it, and you give people the thrills they're looking for in the passive entertainment that they want, and then you sprinkle in the social commentary. And it's like, oh, I'm a part of a conversation I didn't even want to be in now. But that's okay because I like seeing the zombies get killed. It's the... I'm accidentally involved in the conversation, which is great, which is like kind of what we're supposed to be doing with film.
Which is so funny. Like, I don't want to watch a movie about the realities and tensions of racism in the 1960s. Can't we just watch Night of the Living Dead instead?
Yeah, I was. That's always you're not in the chat anymore, but our group chat of various podcasting.
I'm in it. I think I'm in it. I just have it muted.
Okay, good. It needs to stay that way. But there's always a comment made about there's always somebody in the group, one or two people specifically I'm thinking about, who are always like, get your politics out of my movie. And everyone else going, you mean out of horror where it's been the entire time? Out of science fiction where it's been the entire time? Out of drama? And this goes on and on and on.
Look, you can watch a movie about the Red Scare, or you can watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers. But we gotta pick one.
Anything else about Up you want to talk about? I have just real quick, just some craft elements, and then the accolades, and we'll move on.
You want to talk about Up?
No, I don't want to talk about Up. I thought I said us. It doesn't matter. I meant us. Lupita Nyong'o is great in this. I tell you, not to be all Robert Winfrey, damn you Hollywood about this, but if I may be Robert Winfrey on damn you Hollywood about this for just a moment, Marvel has ruined the film industry in a lot of ways. Not the least of which is it makes really great actors suck. Lupita Nyong'o in Black Panther doesn't get. You could look at that and go, meh, she's not great. And then you see her in this, you're like, oh, she's really great. When you ask people to act, this was my Jason Statham argument. When you ask people to stretch and act as an actor, when you as a director are talented enough to get the best performances out of your players, you can make magic. Lupita Nyong'o is an excellent actress. Winston Duke is an excellent actor. You wouldn't know it by their performances in fucking Black Panther, though, because they're not asked to do those things. They are asked to put on fun costumes and do action shit, and keep it real slight because your audience for Marvel goes from 5-year-olds to 95-year-olds. So you can't do a lot with people. You can't get a lot of nuance, and you can try, and sometimes you accomplish it, Winter Soldier, but for the most part you're playing to such a wide audience for such a large amount of money that no one takes any chances. So everyone just goes, read the fucking lines, stay in front of the green screen, don't pee in your costume, please.
and if you look at if you really go back and read the interviews of a lot of the all-time legends that have had parts in Marvel movies, we're talking like Anthony Hopkins caliber.
Right. Yeah.
They all kind of lament their experiences for every reason you just rattled off.
And so you come to us and you're like, oh my God, the guy that was 8-Man is in this. He's awesome in this movie. I've never identified with a character so much that I did with Winston Duke, just trying to hold his family together, trying to be look, men are angry, bitter, strong, violent motherfuckers. And the fact that we can shed our barbarian skin and try to be good, honest, caregiving people, and we are attacked from all sides while trying to do so by the people who say they love us the most. My
By
God.
none more intensely than by other men. Like,
That
we're
too.
somehow doing them a disservice.
Yeah. Just like I'm sitting here, that car ride. Look, if there's the scariest part of us, I made sure I said us this time because I was thinking up now, you bastard. The scariest part of us is that car ride to the cabin with the wife looking adrift out the window, the kids with the Walkman on, and the father trying to engage the three of them, and they're all just like, fuck off, decent father. And you're like, how did I end up in this hell?
I can't think of too many trips that Ann Cloud and I ever had like that. I think we have had a few though, right? Maybe a few odd ones, but I wouldn't say it's been like every single one.
Yeah.
So
it definitely because I think about this a lot these days, but it definitely made me reflect on the nuclear family, really any family, but like that classic nuclear family structure. And we brought this up with American Beauty, just how like it's you're sold that this is the ideal, this is the dream, go to school, get an education, go to other school, get more education, get a job, get a wife, get kids, get a dog, get a fence. The fence should be around a house. And if you can do all those things, then you've achieved the American dream. You've done it. You have arrived at final boss level, postmodern, liberal, progressive America. Congratulations. Here's your trophy. And then you get there and you're like, none of this is what I was promised. I was promised Shangri-La. I was promised Nirvana. And I get here, and everything I did, every struggle and I might be projecting a little, but every struggle I've made, every sacrifice I've made, everything I've tried to do, because I was told that if I do these things, I will be happy. And I'm surrounded by no one that is, and I'm not happy, and everything is dissatisfactory. And you wonder why the fabric of American culture is falling apart at the seams. And I'm not here to tell people what to do about it or what I think about it, because we need to move on to the next movie. But it does make me, the tragedy of the disintegrating American family, for what I can only imagine is a whole host of mental health issues, if nothing else, saddens me more than anything else. And that's what I got out of Us in just 2 or 3 scenes. So bravo, Jordan Peele.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's not the best of the three that we watched, but I enjoyed it mightily. I would happily watch it. I would happily watch Us again.
So it won a whole bunch of African American Film Critics Associations. It won a handful of Black Reel Awards. It won some Golden Trailer Awards. It won Outstanding Writing in a Motion Picture and NAACP Image Award. It was nominated for a whole bunch more. Bunch of film festival awards. Does not seem to have been nominated for a Academy Award though this time around.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I think the best one that was I think the high up the chain of awards that you can get. It was nominated for MTV Movie and TV Awards, People's Choice, Screen Actors Guild Awards. So not quite as lauded as Get Out, but still a very much appreciated film. And obviously, money wise, it was big money yet again. So of course, because Universal, the only real thriving film studio left in America, gives him a third. After Candyman, gives him another movie and another blank check to go do his fancy art films. And that brings us to Nope, which is a 2022 American neo-Western science fiction horror film, written and directed and produced by Jordan Peele under his and Ian Cooper's Monkey Paw Productions. It brings back Daniel Kaluuya and stars Keke Palmer as horse-wrangling siblings attempting to capture evidence of an unidentified flying object in Agua Dulce, California. Appearing in supporting roles of Stephen Yeun, Michael Wincott, Brandon Pereira, and Keith David. He cited King Kong, Jurassic Park, Close Encounters, Signs, and The Wizard of Oz as his main inspirations. It was made on a budget of $68 million, and because it was the year of our Lord 2022, post-COVID, It only made $172.3 million because movies don't make money anymore. That being said, so the movie is basically there's a space alien eating people. They're trying to get video footage of said space alien eating people. It also eats horses. That's the movie. This is fucking... This is 2 hours and 10 minutes of people and horses are disappearing. Oh, it's an alien. Oh, we should get footage of it to sell because because we ain't got the money for the mortgage on the farm. And then they do. And then because all aliens must die, they blow it up. And lobster. Nope, everyone.
Lobster, my ass. This is more like that shitty McDonald's lobster roll. That's maybe a little bit harsh. It's my issue with it is through, I would say, the first act, maybe halfway into the second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know what I thought we were kind of building towards?
What do you think we were building towards?
Someone watched Signs and went, I think I know how to do it right.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking it, but I didn't say it because I think you were in the middle of talking and I didn't want to interrupt you. But you know who does M. Night Shyamalan better than M. Night Shyamalan? Jordan Peele.
Yeah.
Like
he really does.
These three movies are really emblematic of how to do a good twist and not be a moron about it. Yeah.
I mean, this is a great looking movie.
Oh my god,
extreme! It's so nice to. It's
the
so nice.
The star of this movie is the cinematography. This is a gorgeous movie.
Yeah, and I like the premise. I like the skeleton of the story. The problem is the runtime is way too long for what the story is.
This is a classic example of all of your movies make money. Here's a blank check. Go do whatever. Look, you're not making comic book movies here, and your movies make money. Go do whatever. We don't care. And because every director, and I understand, like, this isn't nearly the George Lucas problem of everyone just says yes, my lord, and and then he makes garbage. This is not quite the Emperor has no clothes thing, but if someone doesn't get in Jordan Peele's ear soon, I can see it going that way. Because, and I've said this many, many times, Robert has said this many, many times on Damn You Hollywood, when your project is devoid of collaboration, it suffers. And I think 2 successes and a blank check, we get to Nope. And this is the beginning of an artist indulging in every one of his fetishes. Every last one of them. I'm surprised this isn't worse than it actually is. This is what happens when you let Tim Burton, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, M. Night Shyamalan just do whatever, and everyone yeses them to death, and then they create a naked emperor, and you're like,
it becomes, let's see if we can get an orangutan.
Yeah. There's a good
movie. If you know the reference.
Yeah. There's a good movie in Nope. It just needed to be cut down by about 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah. And the amazing thing is, even though it's not his best movie, it still showcases everything that makes me want to go see a movie that much more when I hear that he's attached to it.
Okay, I want to pick at your wording there, if I may. It's his least interesting movie. It's still better than Us because there's filmcraft elements. There are filmcraft elements to Nope because, again, we are talking about how to make a movie. And so it's kind of why I wanted to go last, not because it's also the most recent, but also Get Out's his best. Us gave us a lot to talk about, but isn't nearly as good. And Nope gives us the least amount to talk about, but is the best made of the 3. Like, when you are, because again, film is a visual medium, and like, but what does he mean by all of that? Because when you are creating film, when you are a visual artist of any kind, it is about the look. It is about the feel. It is about the aesthetic. And yes, then you can shove into your turducken all the stuff about racism and, postmodernism and objectification. You can throw in all the themes you want, but you must start with an aesthetic. Nope had us up to fuck. My Tourette's is coming out. Nope has the best film aesthetic of all three of these.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about like let us tell a science fiction story, horror story on the wide open landscapes of the hills of California on a horse ranch. And the star of this is the fucking horse ranch. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. It is the most interesting to look at. And I didn't mind watching this for 2.5 hours almost because I couldn't not look at the gorgeous natural beauty of that horse farm. Everything else was sort of immaterial and secondary to that. And that's what makes it better than Us, which is shot in my neighbor's house, in Massapequa, New York. Like not really interested in this. In the dark, by the way. 90% of that movie's in the fucking dark. So, it's not quite the last season of Game of Thrones dark, but
yeah.
But again, the least good-looking aesthetic of the whole thing, and then Get Out's like shot, in someone's backyard for most of it. Inside and outside that one house. So, like I said, Nope is definitely like I want to make use of all my visual talents of film creation. The problem is, okay, now we have this. Now we have this beautifully looking film. It's a simple enough story, and simple is sometimes good. This isn't that complex. There's a monster in the sky. First, they have to figure out what's in the sky. Oh, it's a monster. Well, what is the nature of this monster? It eats people. Okay. Well, how do we kill it? We have to lure it. We have to trap it. We have to kill it. And then lobster. We're done. Okay. I'm with you so far. I think a tight 90 minutes in this movie nails it. 2 hours and 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's like, ooh, this got excessive in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, as beautiful as that ranch is, if you tighten up the pacing, get it down to that hour and a half, and maybe make the scope feel a little bit more tense in places, a little more along the lines of what am I trying to say here? Okay, maybe a scope a little bit more limited, like Us. Would have even been kind of an improvement. You do that, and you've got a nice, straightforward, like 90-minute, basically an indie movie.
Yeah,
almost. But instead,
you could tell from the trailers more Universal when they saw the reel of this. For marketing purposes, like, so Jordan, bring us a reel of your movie so that we know what it is we're selling. If we can get trailers made, if we can market this, if we can get you a nice big audience and a big fat check. And he's like, okay, here you go. And I could absolutely be there right there with the Universal executives going, the fuck is this movie? Like, what are we supposed to tell people? Because that is very evident from the trailers. I remember I took my kids to a lot of movies in the year of our Lord 2022. We saw the Nope trailer like 1,000 times. And every time my kids were like, holy shit, this looks scary as fuck. They said, Father. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what this movie is. Yet neither did the Universal execs.
I've got a question for you. It's one that's been kind of rolling around in my head. It goes back to the quip you made at the top of our discussion of Nope about how movies don't make money anymore. So, no, hang on, I'm going somewhere with this. With movies like these three, and with so much kind of hit and miss in terms of what has and hasn't been either a verifiable success or just at least deemed a success, how do you think we define a truly successful movie anymore if we can't necessarily point as strongly at just strictly box office as we used to?
I mean, there are some there are some metrics that Robert and I tend to talk about when we do shows that are damn you Hollywoods that feature streaming movies. Like I think it's SAMDA, the company is called, and they track views of stuff. So like when Red Notice came out, now Red Notice is a pile of garbage, but Red Notice was like the most streamed movie ever in the history of Netflix. Hard to knock the hustle then. If you have to use a metric, the amount of people that watch a movie in the days of old, the amount of people that watched a movie was measured in ticket sales. But now we have different distribution services, some of which go straight to your home, some of which go
exactly.
So it's like, it hasn't changed. It's still the amount of asses and seats, the amount of people, the amount of eyeballs on screens. The problem is it's now a long tail of places to do that. So whether it's in the theater, so if you take the amount of people, and the problem is they don't do this. So I'm just looking at box office. And box office, it still made money, but it's also made less money than both Get Out and Us, which is a problem. And if you're a Universal exec, you're like, ooh, maybe we don't give him a blank check next time and we give him some adult supervision because we don't want to. It's a downward trajectory here. Like, this is not good. But if you take box office plus PVOD, then the amount of money, I mean, where I watched Nope on Amazon, I believe this was distributed by Universal. Yeah, it's Universal. So by all rights, it should have ended up on Peacock, which means that they got rights fees to show this on Amazon before it goes for free to Peacock, not a real service. So if you take the amount of money it makes on rights fees, PVOD pays, and theatrical box office, then maybe you come up with a hefty number and go, success. But look what it took to get there.
So here's my follow-up question, though.
Yeah.
The Transformers problem. I know what you think of the movies, but I'm talking about the generally held opinion that they are viewed as being bad movies, but they make galaxies worth of money, and so they keep getting to make more movies. Now that money alone isn't quite so much of a formidable indicator, do you think we keep seeing that where a big budget movie comes out, it maybe doesn't do as well in some metrics?
Here's what I'm going to tell you. Part of the reason why sports rights make so much, the broadcast rights for sports make so much money is because now to get anyone to watch anything, it has to be an event. Because I don't know if you know kids, and I mean from the ages of like 7 to maybe 25.
Yep.
They are watching two things, YouTube and TikTok. It is hard to get a human body to watch any traditional fiction anymore, anywhere.
I think I have the succinct wording I was looking for.
Yeah.
Do you think movies will have a harder or easier time getting a second chance now that money doesn't carry quite so much weight in rendering a judgment on whether something was actually successful or not?
That's where I was going with this. Is at this point the only things getting made for a substantial amount of money are things people think are a sure bet. The problem is, as time goes on, I think executives are figuring out less and less is a sure bet. And even if something does hit, Barbie is a really great example of this. Barbie, the lesson from Barbie should have been give a talented director latitude and be brave. Give them the opportunity to make, to comment on the brand, comment on social issues, and you will have a relatable hit that'll be a $1 billion seller and be the top movie in the world for months on end. Barbie. And we live in the evil mirror universe where Spock has a mustache, and the wrong lessons got taken from Barbie, which was, people want to see more toy movies. And every time I say that, a little part of me dies, Sean. So to answer your question, I don't think they'll make more Transformers movies because at least people know what that is, but they don't know what's going to get people to the theater anymore.
See, but that notion of like they're just going to make more toy movies, in a way that's kind of backwards, because the whole way we got here was people looked at the shallow little toys that were shoved in our faces as kids.
Mhm.
Best examples: My Little Pony and Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
And then they took those, and then they grew up into creative, imaginative adults who went, let me try something. I think I have something to say here, and I think I might have a unique way to say it. And they ended up making something that proved to be memorable and identifiable to a whole other generation. And now now someone takes a movie that has something to say like that took a vapid toy and added some substance, and they're just saying, so more toys then.
Motherfucker, they're making an
Got
Uno movie.
it.
They're making an Uno movie.
What fucking horrible Ouroboros have we as a species birthed?
Uh-huh. Welcome to TMU Hollywood, our personal hell. Anyway, so to conclude our discussion of Nope, the only thing I have to say about it is I don't really love... I mean, Keke Palmer as an actress is fine. She's serviceable. She was given a character to play. She played that character. My problem is the character is not... It's funny. So she plays what this movie approximates as a final girl. I mean, granted, Daniel Kaluuya doesn't die. Nobody really dies in this except for the one film guy, but the guy with the IMAX camera. The other person that dies is the Asian fella who was kid sheriff or whatever the fuck he was.
Stephen Yeun?
Yes.
Oh, no.
But everybody else makes it out alive. But she's the one that gets the big hero moment. She's the one that finally kills the alien, and and the camera kind of rests on her, and she looks at her brother, and he looks back at her, and and the movie ends. My problem is that I'm not entirely sure what Jordan Peele was going for with her characterization, because I don't think she's particularly likable. I don't think she is different by the end of the movie. That is the other problem I have with Nope, is Daniel Kaluuya is perpetually annoyed through this entire movie. He is just as annoyed at the beginning of this movie as he is at the end of the movie. And Keke Palmer kind of starts out as sort of a vapid, shallow, ne'er-do-well, late for important things, not taking life seriously, vape smoking shithead. And at the end of it, she's all of those things, but she killed an alien. I did not see a tremendous amount of growth in that character. So it's like, I feel like we went on the adventure with them, but nobody comes out the same. Nobody comes out different on the other side.
That is... I have never seen a human being reduced to garnish quite like that.
You're welcome.
Points to Naked House.
What are your hobbies? I like to go to the gym, my podcast, and I deconstruct things. Do it fairly well. All right, any final word on Nope, and then we're gonna call it.
Too much of a good thing. I think that's
Yeah.
the best way I can sum it up. Is too much of the best parts of Jordan Peele. He needed an adultier adult. Yes.
All right, and that is our director focus on Jordan Peele. Get Out, Us, and Nope. This past week, Alexis and David Wright did their TV party for One Piece, the live action. Myself and Robert Winfrey looked at the Saw franchise, looked at Saw X, as a matter of fact. And Monday, Ronnie Adams and David Wright joined me to talk about how all dragons are narcissists. Also, we talked about Legends of Vox Machina. A good time was had by some. This weekend, we've got a re-airing of Fan4stick, and Metal Hammer of Doom Sundays is back with Unleashed, Dawn of the Nine. Next week, Damn You Hollywood is back on Mondays with The Creator. And then on Tuesday, I need to start watching this now. We will be, myself, Jesse Starcher, and I believe David Wright will be watching Good Omens Season 2. Alexis will be doing a review of Ahsoka. God bless her. That's what I got going on here. Sean Coma, show us where you piss from.
Follow me on Twitch, Instagram, and Threads at the handle you see right there on screen. And please just watch from afar if you're under 18. Things get a little bit real on my socials sometimes. So, not really having much planned. I'm kind of in the midst of wedding planning right now. I'm going to stream when I can, twitch.tv/Comer Codex. Probably some Overwatch. I'd like to start my Mass Effect playthrough soon. And when I am able to stream regularly, it's usually Thursday through Sunday night. And usually right around 9 p.m. Eastern time. So.
All right. Sean will be back with us. Let's see. Sean, Kansas. There we go. All right. Sean will be back November 2nd. We will be doing the Red Curtain trilogy, which is our director focus on Baz Luhrmann. We are going to be looking at Strictly Ballroom, Romeo and Juliet starring Leonardo DiCaprio, and the Moulin Rouge, who I did not see all the way through because I was busy kissing Jackie at the time. So I will actually be able to sit down and watch this whole thing, and comment on it.
That's
and then,
so sweet.
Yeah, it was an interesting night. And then November 16th, we're doing another Long Road to Ruin. This time it's the Mortal Kombat Legends animated trilogy. And November 30th, another director focus, this time David Lynch, because we're going to get high and do ill hallucinogens and think about the universe. We're going to look at Mulholland Drive, because that's the only way to appreciate David Lynch. We're going to look at Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, I Can Hear Your Fucking Radio, You Stupid Shit. Yeah. And Lost Highway. And then we close out the year December 14th with a return to Long Road to Ruin. We're going to be one of the ones on the list that we get to tick off that we never did in the first two runs of this. We're going to look at the Home Alone movies, the 3 theatrical ones, if I remember correctly.
I'm excited.
Yes. We're only doing the first 3 because boy did that fucking thing go down in a hurry. Hey, Robert's brother in with this real quick. Mixing mushrooms and LSD, how to enjoy David Lynch. Very much so. Though if you're gonna watch Blue Velvet, I would also say you should get yourself a can of nitrous oxide. But that's besides the point. All right. For Sean Comer, you're not.
God damn, dude, I'm just sticking with weed. Chill. Jesus.
He's Sean, and I'm a terrible influence. Be well, be safe, and behave.